You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings Podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings Podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Sawyer Family Bacon, the bacon that is so delicious you won't mind what the secret ingredient is. I am your host, Les, and I am here with Steven, as always. How are you doing today, Steven?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about this bacon. It sounds really delicious.
You know, it's funny, the Firefly family even endorsed it. Was not seeing that coming. They're talking about doing bacon-wrapped chicken bites, so it should be fun. Should be fun.
Sounds tasty.
Oh, man. I don't know about you. I don't know what the weather's like there. I just have to say, I woke up this morning and it felt like fall, and I was really happy.
The last few mornings have kind of had a nice chill in the air, not like really cold, maybe about 58, 60, so it's a little cooler than usual, and it's been nice. And
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the heat to return because it always does. It gets you settled in.
Yeah, it's funny because I was looking today, and here it's, going to be high 60s, low 70s until like 5 o'clock, I think, and then it's going to get hot. I'm like, that's awfully late for it to get hot, but okay. That's Ohio for you. I mean, the weather's just screwed here. Let's just be honest.
I mean, it's supposed to be a nice day, nice week. I think the heat is going to come back, but I'm looking forward to at least having a few nice days where you can kind of just enjoy the sun and the weather and not just be like, I'm dying of heat.
Another thing that is making me feel excited for fall, real quick while I'm thinking about it, and I'm going to give a shout out to a store. I know this is weird. Home Depot's been real good about the giant skeletons, and everybody's been like super into that. There was a time a while back where people were buying them up and then turning around and selling them for a lot more than what they were worth.
Mm-hmm.
Big thing, I'm going to give some props to Lowe's, though. We went to Lowe's the other day, and all the stores are starting to gradually get out their Halloween stuff. Lowe's has some pretty cool stuff for your front yard.
Nice.
This year. They have a scarecrow that's like 12 foot tall, and his hat makes him probably 15 foot tall. And he lights up, and he talks. I gotta admit, it's hard to not want to spend the $400 that it cost.
Wow.
Yeah. That's sort of a weird fall tradition for me. Because I love Halloween so much, I will go to the stores and see, when they start getting stuff out. Big Lots is a store, I have to say. They have a lot of cool Halloween stuff. Like, I don't think people realize that they have a lot of cool, like, decorations for their, like, not so much outside stuff. Like, their outside stuff's okay, but they have just, like, a lot of really cool little things that you could put in your house. One thing that I love that they have is they have a picture. I actually have one. It looks like an old painting, but when you hit a button on the one I have, the piano starts to play music, and you see like hands move on the piano.
Oh, wow.
It's not like super fancy, obviously. It's just a little bit of lights inside of it. But anyways, just you'll probably hear me talking about if I've seen stuff at the store lately as we get closer to Halloween, because I drive my wife crazy because I'm always like, let's go to the store, let's see what they got.
Right.
But I'm ready for it. I'm ready for Halloween. It's going to be fun.
Sure. Yeah. Always.
And one other thing I have to say real quick, we just talked about it off cam. I'm not going to talk about it a ton. I just want to say we had just talked about streaming services on our last episode and talked about removing things and how annoying that is. And I understand that it might be free somewhere else to, sometimes to stream things. But why take it off if it's still new? I went to watch Megan and I went to watch Cocaine Bear, and it's not on Peacock, and I'm just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Just gonna say.
But from what I've seen, they should be available on Prime Video.
Yeah.
Should be. So maybe it's their turn. They got tagged in, so
Could be.
Check to see if they're there, and maybe you'll have an opportunity.
Just drives me crazy. It's just
No, yeah, I get it. Especially when that's where it's been.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, well, I'm going to come back to that. And then you come back to it and it's gone.
I will say, though, they do still have Renfield on there. And I think I'm going to give Renfield another watch because I really enjoyed it. it didn't get very much love, but it seems like Dracula movies aren't getting much love these days.
And it's sad too, because they're not retelling the same thing. They're trying something new, and that's what these characters need right now. They need new interpretations to kind of breathe new life into them.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm excited about, because, I mean, who doesn't like Dracula? Who doesn't like Frankenstein and the Wolfman? I understand that they're old characters, but if you're doing something new, that's interesting to me.
Oh, yeah. 100%. 100%. I don't know. I'm on the fence anymore with movies in general. I get like some films are from a different era. It's a different time. Things are different, from what they used to be. So if films are reproduced, remade, they have to, sort of modernize them. But I feel like there's a certain point where it does get a little ridiculous, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's... I don't want to touch on this a lot, but anybody who wants to know what my thoughts are, just Google the new Snow White movie that's coming out and look at all the drama around that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one thing to try to do a different idea. It's another idea, and it's another thing to completely shit on the original.
Right.
I get there's stereotypes and things that have changed, but sometimes things need to sort of stay in a certain vein, I guess, is the best way to put it. And I'm not trying to offend anybody or anything, but
But no, I get what you mean. I mean, sometimes it's not necessary to go outside norms, and it's okay. Not everything has to be different or changed. And like you said, we're not trying to offend anyone by saying that, but it depends on what you're trying to change. If you're just changing something just to change it and be like, look what we're doing. We're trying to be different. Okay, but what are you adding to it? If you can give me some context behind what you're doing, then I'm all for it. For example, and I'm going to try to navigate this in a very... Because I want people to understand where I'm coming from, okay? And I think I've had this discussion before. So I think it was on Super Mega Crash at one point, maybe. But I had this conversation with someone when it came to Miles Morales Spider-Man, okay? And people were just like, well, why can't you just... I guess the argument or discussion was like, well, Peter Parker is going to be black. And it's like, but why? And that was the question that popped up to kind of discuss. And for me personally, I think it's better to have Miles Morales, a separate character from Peter Parker, because just saying, well, we're just going to race swap Peter Parker and then that's going to be your Spider-Man. That's not as intriguing to me, because all you've done is race swap him. You're just saying, okay, but what if Peter Parker was black? Fair enough. You can play with that, but for me, Miles Morales is a more intriguing character because he's his own person.
Yeah.
He is now someone else with a different backstory, with different parents, with a different outlook on everything. So therefore, he's not just this character who's now black. He's his own person. So now he has an entire story that's his to tell and not someone else's. Same with Superman. They were talking about doing a Superman with a black Superman. I'm intrigued by that. But what are you going to do? Because they have done that in the comics. It's like, it's instead of Kal-El, it's Val-Zod. Okay. And that's a different character. It's not Kal-El, it's Val-Zod. Therefore, he is his own person. That is the character I want to follow, not Kal-El, but a different ethnicity. So, like you're saying, if you're going to just do something with a different character and just say, well, we're going to make them Hispanic, or we're just going to make them, maybe they have a different, what's the term I'm looking for here? Maybe they're gay, or whatever. Why? Unless you're adding context to it, why? Because if you're just doing it just to do it, it doesn't add anything. You're not doing any service to the gay community by just saying, well, look, now Snow White's gay. Okay, but why? You know what I mean? Well, put some context into it, and then it's more acceptable for me personally if you just add context and make it more intriguing with that twist.
Well, it's honestly it's just like, I don't want to be this guy, but the new Snow White that's coming out, they revealed some set photos.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of the 7 dwarves from Snow White, I think of 7 little old guys.
Yeah.
That's what I think of. But apparently Disney thought that was creepy or something. I don't know. And they're not dwarves, and I think most there's a few women in there too. And I'm like, I get it, but to me when I think Snow White, I guess I think the original. I don't see how that's as offensive as what people are making it out to be. It's just like to kind of touch base on what you just said about the Superman thing. Another thing that I thought was an interesting concept. They should do this with more superheroes, I think. There's a Russian Superman where he landed in Russia instead of the U.S.
Yeah.
And it's a good story. And I will say this much: Russian Batman is one stone cold mamma jamma. Just gonna put that out there. But I don't know. I feel like some studios walk on eggshells because they don't want to offend everybody, and they want to be ahead of the curve when it comes to certain things. And I don't know. I feel like some stories need to sort of stay the same to a degree. There's certain factors from stories, and honestly, you have to. I'm just gonna say this too. If you're trying to tell a story, you're not supposed to just make everybody happy. Mm-hmm. Good storytelling will be offensive to some people. It will make some people uncomfortable, but that's the point of it. I can't remember who the comedian is, but he basically said, he's like, you have every right to be offended by my jokes. If I have a joke that offends you, that's fine. You can be offended. But just because you're offended doesn't mean it's offensive.
Right.
And I truly think that wholeheartedly. It's like anything in life. I'm going to say what I want to say, even if it makes somebody uncomfortable, but they can say whatever they want to say, even if it makes me uncomfortable. I don't care. So, but don't want to get political today. Today.
No. I mean, I get what you're saying, and it's there's a line to be towed. And in fact, I'll kind of bring this up kind of to add to that a little bit, because I've been doing some casual last drive-in watches, some old episodes, maybe some movies that I missed in the early years, like they've been on for decades or something. But like going back to the original marathon, and then when they actually started the show, and when I say casual watching, it's one of those where you're kind of watching in the background, where you're listening, kind of watching but not quite watching. And one movie I kind of rewatched, and I know I've watched it on there before. I'm almost positive I have, but I don't know, kind of stuck in my head, and I was like, I want to kind of rewatch this, but not quite, because I've seen it. And I remember that this is a film that I would love to talk about here in greater detail, so I don't want to go too deep into it. But it was one of those, like you said, people got really offended by him, was just like, no, I can't deal with this, was Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Yeah.
And I think what makes that movie so uncomfortable is how realistic everything is portrayed. There's no glamour to it. It's meant to make you feel uncomfortable. You can't sympathize with these people, and I think that's the point. So when people are offended by what they're seeing, saying how dare they do this, that's the point.
Yep.
Why do you want to glamorize these people? They're serial killers. So I don't want to feel bad for anybody. They're bad people. And that's kind of the purpose of it. Portrait of a Serial Killer. He is a bad person. Yeah. You might see glimmers of hope, but at the end of the day, that's just who he is. Yeah. And there's nothing you can do about it. So, being offended by things like that, sometimes, like you said, I think there's a purpose to it, and it's meant to make you feel uncomfortable, because that was the whole reason. So, I
have to say something just on a side note real quick. There's something about when I hear Joe Bob Briggs talk about anything, they should just let him have his own little news station to just talk about whatever, whether it's politics or sports or any kind of news that comes out. They should just let him talk about it. I listened to him talk it was on Instagram. It was like his 4th of July address that he does for the fans. Mm-hmm. And just hearing that man talk, he so elegantly puts things together. And I wish that I could, not fumble all over my words. What is it? Me no talk that good.
Right.
He's just, I like to hear the guy talk. And I think that's why people enjoy The Last Drive-In. He's just so informative. He's so knowledgeable, and he just presents it in such an elegant way that you're just like, I could listen to you talk for hours, man.
Yeah, and the elegance of it, I think, comes from just like he's pulling. I mean, I'm sure that there are writers and things are kind of scripted out to a point, but you'd never know it because the way he talks about things, it's like he's pulling from memory. He's remembering little snippets and details and just pulling as he's talking, and it seems so natural that I'm intrigued.
And I'm sure that he does, to me, it kind of seems like he's, the best way I can compare him is to George Carlin. When George Carlin would go to do stand-up, he would write his jokes out, but he would research everything that he could research so that he had all the right knowledge to present everything factually and, accurately. I feel like even with writers, I feel like Joe Bob Briggs is doing a little bit of research on stuff that he might not know a ton about. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I feel just, now I want to hear him talk for like an hour.
Yeah. No, that was one of the reasons I was kind of doing those rewatches, is because, again, there would be movies that maybe I hadn't quite seen and I was a little curious about, where I'd be like, I've heard about this. I want to kind of check this out, but, I don't really have time to commit to it, but I can kind of watch it and pay attention. So I would, especially when it would come to the breaks, just hearing him discuss, I mean, that's like a podcast. I can just pop it in and just listen to the facts he's spewing out. And that's just as intriguing to me as the movie is, just hearing all the behind the scenes stuff. So,
I agree with you there.
So I got a little bit of news I wanted to touch on, just some quick headlines before we jump into our big topic. So for anybody who doesn't know, who might not be a gamer, a Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game has released on the 18th, as August 18th, like the thing.
The 50th anniversary, I believe.
Yes.
Of the date in the movie, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, to my understanding, I have not personally played it yet. It is something I do want to try, but the format is one of those formats that, unless you have friends, I'm not keen on playing with strangers because people cheat. The same people who did this game did Friday the 13th, and as much as I love playing the game, some of the people that I would come into contact with and play with, there were people who would actually be teams. One would be helping Jason track down all the other people, and then they would go kill, and then that was just bullshit. It was unfair, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, you were being hunted too, you son of a bitch, and, you're helping this guy? It didn't make any sense to me, so things like that.
I used to kill other survivors, because you could kill other survivors at one point in the game, and I used to do that. If I knew they were helping Jason, or I found out they were helping Jason, it would cause me to like lose points or whatever, but I would kill other survivors.
It's bullshit. I mean, you're trying to have fun. You're trying to achieve something and survive, and you've got some cheat-ass son of a bitch trying to help this other guy. It doesn't make any sense. But that game is no longer, to my understanding, it's no longer in service, or at least they're not supporting it anymore. Yeah. Hopefully it will still be playable for a while, or at least my hope is, because the way they almost laid it out is like you wouldn't be able to play it at all. And I think that's ridiculous. If you can at least play the single player mode, which I've always found to be fun, where you could just play as Jason killing all the survivors in scenarios, that to me was just as fun.
Right.
So as long as I can still do that, I can still access that, I'm happy. But if the game goes away as a whole, I'm going to be very disappointed, because I paid good money for that. And I even supported the Kickstarter for it.
Now, just a random note, I'm pretty sure I read this accurately when I read it. I might, knowing me, maybe not. But I think since they knew that the game was, going to stop being supported or whatever, I think they actually like sent out packages to the fans or something.
Yeah,
and they let them level up and everything.
Yeah, they pretty much unlocked everything in the game. So now if you log in, which I have yet to do, which I really need to do, you log into the game and you get all these points, all the outfits, anything that you could have possibly needed to unlock, it's unlocked. So yeah, full access to the game. and everything in it, so it's there for you, which you can't. I mean, that's a fair thing to do, because if you're saying that the game is no longer going to be supported, you can't earn these points and anything, then that's the least you can do for people who have been playing it, who played it for a while and just never maybe got that far, because I never did.
Yeah.
And so I just hate that a lawsuit fucked this up.
Right.
But for the sake of gun, they learned from their mistake with Texas Chainsaw, and they've been saying that we don't foresee this being a problem with this game, because the rights, they know who the rights holder is, which is Kim Hinkle, and they got all the clearance. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that the original producer owned the rights to the franchise, so that's cool. They have one person to go to, one person to clear it from, so they made damn sure that this is not going to be a game that's going to be fucked over by a lawsuit. Furthermore, to any fans out there, I am a fan. I've mentioned that wholeheartedly on the show, that I love Texas Chainsaw, even though it's a flawed movie series. Apparently some fans out there are bitching about things that aren't in the game right now. You know, well, why isn't this character in there? Why isn't that character in there? Understand that this film franchise went through so many different companies. It went to, I think it was an independent release, which again is why they're utilizing the first movie. Second movie went to Canon Films, which I don't know where those rights necessarily fall right now, because Canon is defunct, has been for decades. And then they went to New Line, and I think they stayed there for quite some time, and then I think it fell out of New Line's hands, but I'm not 100% on that, because when it went to Netflix, I don't remember seeing their name attached to it, but I could be wrong. But
I feel like they changed hands at least one other time.
Yeah, because that was I think it was right after the 3D one that they did, because I know that New Line did 3 and the 2 remakes, and then the Texas Chainsaw 3D. But then again, I'm almost positive Sony was responsible for distributing the the Next Generation, and possibly Leatherface, the prequel one that I've never watched. So I don't know. It's all over the place. So many distributors and people and hands have touched it. So even though they're covering their bases on being having to worry about, legislation or anything like that, this gives them an opportunity to at least work within the confines of what they have. And if the opportunity comes up that they can secure different looks for characters or add in different characters from other movies, they will. But right now, this is all they can do. This is what they're working with. Just be happy you've got from what I've seen, a very true adaptation of the farmhouse, the gas station, characters from the movies with a few little additions. I mean, this is a love letter to Texas Chainsaw. But I do want to also say that I have heard through reviews that it is a little buggy, and time is going to take care of that. I think they'll smooth everything out. It's a little rough going at first. Friday the 13th was the same way, so give it time. It'll smooth out.
I'll give them props too for one thing. In Friday the 13th, it was just Jason against the against the campers and whatnot. But from what my understanding is, for this game, you have your group of survivors, but there's also several family members. So there's like a team of family members doing everything too. And I actually really like that idea. Like, one person plays as Leatherface, and then you have your family members. I don't know. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, from everything that I've heard, the way they kind of laid out how the process works, so not every family member is the same, which obviously they are not, but they all have kind of their own skills, things that they can do, so it helps set a better trap for your survivors and how you're kind of approaching them. So it's team building in the greatest way. So now you have a team of survivors trying to survive, and then you have a team of killers trying to kill. And that is a new twist on the PvP formula for that type of game. So yeah, I was very intrigued by that too. I thought that was a very smart approach.
Yeah.
And like I said, I plan on checking it out at some point, because I am a fan, and I hope there's a possibility of different Leatherface skins at some point, or maybe even different characters where you have. I know Chop Top is not one that they have in there yet, but that would be cool. And especially if they could get Bill Moseley to come in and do some voice work, that would be amazing. But again, I'm not going to say that that's going to happen. I have no idea what's going on after the fact. But right now the game is out. If you want to check it out, it's there. So hopefully you can enjoy it.
I have a little piece of game news that I saw. I don't know if it's already happened or if it's about to happen. Dead by Daylight is going to bring in a Xenomorph and Ripley, which is cool.
Yeah, I think they have added. I think they did add it in this week as well. I could be wrong about that, but I know that there was a lot of promotion about it. So this seems like it's probably happened.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw a random trailer for it, and I was like, okay, that's I like Dead by Daylight, but it's one of those games that I have to leave it for a little while.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing. You put them up on the blood sacrifices. It's I don't want to say it's boring, but it does get a little repetitive, and you're like, I need to step away from this for a little bit. I know there's the Killer Clowns video game. I'm not sure. I haven't heard much else on it yet, but I was kind of excited for it. I really want to see a Chucky video game.
Yeah.
That would be badass. Mm-hmm. And see, I don't know, being able to play as Chucky, like go through ventilations and like in the ventilation system in a building and stuff like that. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Speaking of Chucky, I'm glad you brought Chucky up, because speaking of Chucky, one, we got a trailer for Chucky Season 3 coming out on October 4th, I believe, starting October 4th. We'll finally be streaming on Peacock immediately. So nice. I won't have to worry about waiting for the show to show up on Peacock after the fact. So they're finally being smart about it. So USA, Sci-Fi, and Peacock all at once, October 4th. So I'm excited for that. Also, the 4 remaining Chucky movies came out through Shout Factory. Mine came in this week. And one, I didn't realize, because I got the special package. It comes with all the posters and whatnot. And for those of you who can't see behind me, I like to get the posters. And there were 8 fucking posters. I didn't realize.
8? You have 8 posters right now back on your wall?
Well, there's 9 right there.
9, I didn't see the one.
With Halloween and then Army of Darkness. But in the Chucky set that I got, they sent 8 posters.
Wow.
So there's 8, or 4 are the original cover art that you see for the movies. And then the additional 4 are new art pieces that were designed for this collection that look absolutely fantastic. I love the new artwork that they come out with all this stuff, like especially with Seed of Chucky. I think the original poster for that just shows like Chucky kind of leaning his hand into a bassinet or something like that, and there's another little baby hand coming out of it, which is it's a nice cover. But the new art, they let Glenda or Glenn or Glenda have center stage, where they're just standing there just with their crazy hair and just like looking, just fantastic. I just love that they gave them center stage in that poster. So
very nice.
I don't know what to do with those posters as of yet, because I got to get some more frames, but I think I'm going to have to start placing, because I'm running out of wall space in here. But I got to complain about one thing. First, you have slip cases for all the movies, but I have extra slip cases I'm never going to use. Same with the posters. Slip cases with the original art, and then they sent additional slip cases with the new art. So you can choose which one you'd prefer. Well, obviously, I want the new art. I do appreciate the original art, and that's why I keep the main cover as that. So when I slide it off, I can still see the original. So I got the best of both worlds. But now I have these 4 slip cases that are just sitting there, and it's just like, well, what am I going to do with this? You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. And I also got a bitch about this, and I'd love to hear the reasoning behind this, because it makes 0 sense to me. And Shout is going to have to do a little bit better about this, because it boggles the mind. So every movie except Bride of Chucky has an unrated cut, okay? For some reason, only the theatrical cut was on 4K for Seed of Chucky. But yet, Cult and Curse, their 4K version is the unrated version. But the unrated version of Seed is on the Blu-ray. And I'm curious as to why they didn't just put the unrated version on 4K and then put the theatrical on Blu-ray or something to that effect, as opposed to just, it doesn't make any sense to me. So you can put the unrated versions of the other two as your basic 4K, but not on this one. You know, it's, I don't know.
That is a little weird.
I'm sure that there's some reason that they'll give, because I know that with Army of Darkness, that was another issue that I had with the 4K release of it, is the director's cut or extended cuts of that. They didn't put a 4K version of that on the disc, so you only have the theatrical on 4K. But these are fairly new movies, and you have both, so why couldn't you just do a 4K transfer of the unrated? I don't know. It's a little frustrating, you know, because with horror movies, you want the unrated version because you know that's where the gore is going to be. So it just, I don't know, it's a little disappointing to me. But also, speaking of 4K, we got an announcement, also kind of around the same time as Chucky Season 3 is coming out. Prey, the Predator prequel or whatever, is getting a 4K release. And I'm so excited because I wasn't sure we would ever see a physical release for this film.
And say what you will about that movie, it's fantastic.
It is one of the best Predator movies in a long time. So, and I can attest to that because we rewatched, my wife and I, we recently rewatched all of them. And as you kind of watch it, you can kind of see where it drops in quality a little bit, and you start to question, or you just like you're looking for those little pieces to just kind of connect the dots, because it's so frustrating when you hear the behind the scenes stuff where they're just like, oh yeah, we're going to get Arnold back for this. And then he never shows up, and it's like, but that would have been so cool. And then it's like, oh yeah, we were going to get Arnold back for this. It's like, but you didn't. And that would have been so cool. So I don't know. I mean, I don't hate them, but as far as like The Predator goes, I think it was the one directed by Shane Black. It was entertaining to a point, but it's like in the third act, they didn't know what they were doing. Yeah. And especially that ending with the Predator killer armor or whatever it's supposed to be. It's a very underwhelming reveal after all that movie has been building up to, and you're just waiting for something so cool, and it's not. You're just like, oh, it's just armor. Okay.
Yep. No,
as opposed to, you know, the rumor that was supposed to be they find Ellen Ripley and Newt, which would have been so awesome. But again, I understand that creates complications in timelines and what have you. But
all that fun stuff.
Anyway, I'm just saying, it would have been cool. Even if it never paid off, it would have been cool and a hell of a lot more exciting than what we got.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. So,
now,
but yeah, Prey 4K, excited as hell. I can't wait.
Now, I do have one other thing, but I can save it before we get into everything if you have something else.
Just one more I wanted to touch on. We finally got a brief glimpse at the Toxic Avenger remake,
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it was going to be shown, I can't remember what they said, a film festival.
Yeah, it's going to be airing at a film festival. I know Uncle Lloydie, he posted up about it and everything.
So because I know that we have discussed this before. I know that when Lloyd was on, we talked about it, and at least when he mentioned it, because I know I'd heard that this film had been in production at least since back in 2020.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I remember reading those, you know, people who were involved, cast members and whatnot. And I thought, all right, this is sounding pretty cool. And then it just got silent for a while. And I was starting to worry that something had happened. But then Lloyd had brought it up on the show earlier this year that it was happening. So I was like, oh, okay. But we didn't dig into it. We just confirmation that it's still happening.
Yeah.
But still, it's been, that was back in January, and now it's August, so almost half a year's gone by, or over half a year, and we still hadn't gotten anything. So now we finally saw an image, which I'm assuming we're getting like a little person Toxic Avenger?
Now, see, Peter Dinklage is supposed to be playing the Toxic Avenger.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing comments, and I've seen some videos where some people they're bitching about it. They're like, oh, he's not supposed to be small. And they're like, well, maybe Peter Dinklage is just doing the voice. And maybe it's this and maybe it's that. And, you know, reading all of the mixed comments where some people are like, what's it matter?
Yeah, what's it matter?
I found one comment on a video that really made me happy because it was basically my thoughts on the whole subject. They said, look, this movie, the original Toxic Avenger is Lloyd Kaufman's baby.
Mm-hmm.
If he signed off on this, then we have to trust him. You and I have both talked to Lloyd. I got to finally meet him in person at one of the conventions. Lloyd's a nice guy, and he's smart. He's a very smart man.
Oh, yeah.
He's eccentric, but he is one hell of a nice guy. He's one hell of a smart guy. So I'm going to trust Lloyd on this. If he signed it over, I'm sure he looked at the script. I'm sure he probably was whispering in some ears about this movie.
Yeah.
So I trust him. And it might be a different take on the Toxic Avenger.
Which, why not?
Yeah.
You know, why not?
Why does it have to be, in the original movie, it was a lot of brute force. He was very strong and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say in this one, he has that staff in the picture. Who's to say that this isn't something a little more different? I would love to see some, toxic goo or toxic magic of some kind come out of that staff and just melt somebody or something crazy like that, I don't know. I trust Lloyd because he created the Toxic Avenger. So if the Toxic Avenger is going in a different direction or a story that maybe he didn't think of or maybe touched on before but never actually created all the way, I'm for it.
Yeah. Like you said, it's his baby, and if it felt like it was going to do a disservice to his original film or taint it in any way, I mean, he's even said Toxic Avenger 2 and 3 are garbage, and he was partially responsible for making those happen, Yeah. So he knows, where he's made mistakes, and I honestly, like you said, he's signing off on this. He has faith in it. I think it's going to be everything that you'd want and more.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it kind of like John Carpenter coming on to help with the Halloween films, 2018's and then up until Halloween Ends. Say what you will about those movies. Love them or hate them. I have things about them that I love. I have things about them that I don't love. But I respect all of those films, and I respect the fact that they worked with John Carpenter on a character that, let's face it, started John Carpenter's career, put him where he's at.
Exactly.
Made one of many films that made him a horror icon. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
yeah, I trust it, and I'm glad you brought up Toxic Avenger because that was what I was gonna bring up. I was like, I'm sure Steven probably will, but just in case.
Yeah. Fantastic Fest in Texas next month, I do believe. So I wish I could be there because that would be a fun treat. But I'm looking forward to it. I mean, like you said, Peter Dinklage, Elijah Wood, Kevin Bacon. I mean, come on, man. Come on.
I mean, they had me at Peter Dinklage, so
yeah.
But that's a good cast. Come on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, speaking of Dinklage, now this is not a horror movie, but it just seemed interesting. Look up a trailer for a movie called She Came to Me. It's like a comedy with Peter Dinklage and Anne Hathaway and Marissa Tomei.
Okay.
And to my understanding, he's a composer, or no, not a composer, playwright maybe.
Okay.
He's writing plays or stuff like that for the stage, and it just seems like a very quirky comedy. Like he's got his wife and everything, and he just very type of smart, eccentric type, and he runs into this woman played by Marissa Tomei who just like seduces the shit out of him apparently, and he's just like mind blown by it. Like he just can't understand what happens, but that in turn helps him create his next stage play. And so she kind of becomes his muse. And I guess the things that come from that, because then she becomes a very clingy, or at least that's the way it kind of comes off in the trailer. So it seems like a lot of fun. Like it would just be a interesting story. And him in a comedy, I think he's a very funny guy. He can play comedy and drama just to a T. So I'm intrigued by it. So it's called She Came to Me. See if you can check out a trailer for it, because I'm definitely gonna check that out when I can.
That almost reminds me of in the same vein as there's a movie called Something's Gotta Give.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson's in it with Diane Keaton. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
It's been a while, but yeah.
Yeah, I own it. Not gonna lie, I freaking love that movie. It kind of sounds like that to a degree with the playwright and the inspiration and everything. It makes me think of it. So yeah, I would be totally for that.
For sure.
Oh man.
But that's all the news I got.
Well, if that's all the news, which I like that we do these little news bits. I'm just gonna say that because there's stuff that I like think about wanting to talk about on the show, and it just doesn't happen. And then you're like, hey, I've got news, and I'm like, cool.
Yeah, if I can remember anything or if something good came out, I want to touch on it, especially with this audience, because maybe it went under the radar and maybe they missed it.
Yeah. Well, since we are done with the news, I'm excited today because we get to talk about something that I love and something that you love coming together to create something that everybody loves. Even if they talk shit about it, they love it. And it's been getting love all over social media lately. I've been seeing videos of it on TikTok, which I did not think I would see. One of the best crossover films that has ever happened. They crossed over before the Avengers. Come on, people. Talking about the amazing and unique Freddy vs. Jason, which just celebrated 20 years, which is just freaking mind-blowing. I went to the movie theater to see it.
Same.
I was in middle school, high school maybe? I don't remember. Something like that. And I remember going and sitting with some friends, and one of my buddies looks at me and he goes, what's the point in this movie anyways? They can't kill each other. And I just remember turning to him and going, shut the fuck up. And he's like, what? I'm like, who cares if they can't kill each other? Do you realize what's going to happen? And he's like, what? I said, they're going to mess each other up. And anybody that gets in their way is going to get annihilated. It's going to be fucking awesome. And I think I might have gotten a little trouble for saying the F word that many times. But I can't remember. Because I was just so enthralled in the movie with my popcorn watching blood spatter everywhere.
Sure. I remember when I saw the trailer for this the very first time. Now, this came out in 2003. The internet was, it was a thing, and seeing trailers online was something that it wasn't as popular as it is on YouTube right now, but you had to kind of dig for them, you know what I mean? And this was also at a time where a lot of news wasn't like the news cycle of what was coming out was very prevalent. So for years, you'd hear, oh yeah, they're going to do a Freddy vs. Jason. Oh yeah, they're going to do a Freddy vs. Jason. And then just for so long, nothing would ever come of it. And then obviously when we saw Jason Goes to Hell and we had that ending of Freddy's hand coming out and grabbing the mask, we're like, oh shit, we're going to get it. Now that was in 1993. Okay. Yeah. There's a 10-year gap. So at some point you're just like, well, that shit I guess is never going to happen because again, Jason X came out in 2002, even though it had been released or had been filmed quite some time prior to that. They just let it sit on the shelf. And so, any news of it was just like, it's not real. Probably never going to get it. So I just happened to, I remember I was at my parents' house for some reason. I cannot remember why. But I was over there searching the internet in the late night, and I stumbled upon this trailer for Freddy vs. Jason. Now, it wasn't very big. It wasn't very high, def or anything like that. It was probably like the very small, box that you had. But I thought, is this real? Is this fucking legit? And I'm clicking it, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, holy shit, this is actually happening. And I just, my brain, I couldn't sleep the rest of the night because we're like, this is actually happening. This is real. Because I thought, no way. And sure enough, and I was like, oh shit, this is happening. So I was so excited. And then I bought a magazine that was like nothing but a Freddy vs. Jason, just went through all their histories.
Quick question. Question. The magazine that you bought, what was it, an actual Freddy vs. Jason magazine?
Yeah, it was nothing. Yeah, nothing but.
Did it try? I'm going to see if you can maybe give me some details. Did it have them on it on the cover back to back?
I think there was a poster in it with him back to back. I don't think they were in
Holy
it, but yeah, there was that.
Dude, I have.
Same.
Here's the kicker. I don't know where it is right now. I think it's actually out in the hall. I still have the poster.
Yeah.
It's real long and skinny, so it would fit in the magazine. And it's got Freddy on the one side and it's got Jason. That is hilarious. I still have it.
Yeah.
I think I still have the magazine somewhere too, to tell you the truth. It's not in very good shape, but I still have it.
Oh yeah. I might have it around here somewhere, but I just don't know where it's at. But
that is epic.
Oh yeah. I got so excited. I remember watching the Las Vegas weigh-in special that they did where you actually got to see them.
And Freddy's talking shit saying, oh, he's a mama's boy. I'm going to kick his ass. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was obsessed with it because I was like, this is happening. And keep that in mind. This was before. I mean, we had never seen this before. Granted, I'll take that back a little bit. I guess we did have crossovers with Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Dracula, and whatnot, but that was way back when. And so this felt like a very novel thing because we're talking about two characters from two completely separate franchises that have nothing to do with one another, and they were finally coming together. This was one of those discussions you had on the playground. Who could beat who? And you just throw out names. Oh, man, well, Freddy could kick Jason's ass because yada yada. No, Jason could whoop his ass because yada yada. And then you throw in somebody else in the mix. What if Michael Myers showed up and he fought Jason? Well, it's that same thing.
Yeah.
This was that come to life, finally. Yeah. And I know, and I'm trying to remember if this came out around the same time, same year, because I feel like it came out a year after, but I might be wrong. But Alien vs. Predator came out very close to this at some point. And I'm not sure which came out first. I guess I could do a Google search. But what was... I'm almost positive it came out after. Because for me, that did not feel as much of a...
August 13th, 2004.
So it came out after.
Yes.
Okay. So not... And forgive me, Cheney, because I felt like he misunderstood what I was doing in the Facebook page. But I had posted something up about the anniversary of Alien vs. Predator, and I said that it had negative reviews. These are just facts, okay? I can't help that. And boy, he came to his defense.
Yeah, I had seen that.
Very quick. And for good reason. I don't hate Alien vs. Predator. I do find it very entertaining. Could it have been better? Absolutely. But for what it was entertaining. Now, again, for me, that team up was not as exciting to me as this because we had kind of seen this, Alien vs. Predator, in comic form, or at least I grew up seeing it in comic form because Dark Horse Comics used to print Alien vs. Predator comics all the time. They never lifted any of that material, to my understanding. They may have used little snippets, but I don't remember a lot of the stories that much. But I remember that in grade school, seeing those comics, and I was like, oh man, this is awesome. And that we kind of got that already, you know what I mean? It was still cool to see it on the big screen, but I'd seen it. This was one of those things that we had never really seen.
Yeah.
You know, it was always that dream match. What if? And because Freddy and Jason are, I don't want to say, they're not monsters with no personality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's something to them that makes them unique, especially with Robert Englund being Freddy. He is that character. So if you just said, okay, well, we're doing Freddy versus Jason, but we're going to recast both of them. And you're just like, what? Wait, what?
Right?
No.
Yeah, no, that would be horrible.
Yeah, not going to work. You had to have Robert Englund. We could have had Kane Hodder. We didn't get Kane Hodder, and I know that was one of the things that I remember being a little disappointed about. I don't think I was as disappointed as other people were, but I mean, it was you wanted two people who were the personification of those characters.
Yeah, and I think the person who was the most disappointed was Kane Hodder himself because they sent him a copy of the script, and everything sounded like it was going to happen, and then it didn't. And to this day, he still doesn't understand why he didn't get cast.
I keep hearing conflicting reports because I don't know. I feel like there's a true story out there, but we've only gotten snippets from different people because I've heard that one thing for certain that I know for a fact, Ronnie Yu, the director of Freddy vs. Jason, had nothing to do with it. He has stated that was not his decision. He didn't even initially want to direct the movie because he didn't know Freddy and Jason. You know, I mean, the closest he'd ever gotten to horror was Bride of Chucky, and that was ideal in all the best possible ways because what he brought to that, he brought the same sensibilities to this, which I think worked in his favor, which really got me excited because, again, Bride of Chucky is probably one of my all-time favorite Chucky movies. So when I heard he was attached, I was like, fucking A. But he has stated that that was not his decision. To his understanding, that was a studio decision. Like they said, hey, we're going to recast Jason. Are you okay with that? And he says, I don't care. He's like, if that's what you want to do, you do it. I'm focused on the movie itself. You just get me somebody who can do it, and it's fine. I don't care. So understanding that it came to somebody somewhere, producers maybe, that the stories, again, conflicting, but to my understanding, they said that Kane Hodder was not as much of a towering presence as Ken Kurtzinger was. Like, Ken was a little bit taller, so he kind of towered over Robert Englund, which kind of added something that they were looking for. You know what I mean? Like, they wanted him to seem bigger. So it almost seemed like, well, how in the hell is Freddy going to beat him? But Freddy has his own unique style. So they were trying to add something extra to the character so they weren't on, like, level playing field. Which I can understand, because Jason always kind of seemed like a towering presence.
Yeah. I mean, and I know Kane Hodder is taller than Robert Englund. I don't know I think Robert Englund's like, here I go sounding like a stalker. I think Robert Englund's like 5'10", and Kane Hodder's like 6'4", I think. Really? Or something like that.
Yeah,
he's not very short.
So it really makes you wonder. I mean, because, like you said, the side by side that we saw, that poster that we were talking about. I mean, you can see the difference in the actors, like height wise. So it just kind of makes you wonder, what was it that Kane wasn't really bringing to it, because the 6-inch difference between them does sound like it would be ideal enough, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not a studio person, and again, I've also heard that there were certain rumors going about that Kane would fight back with the production on what Jason would or wouldn't do, and they didn't want to have that conflict. Which, to be fair, I don't feel like that would have been any different than Robert Englund.
Yeah.
Because he owned that role. So are you going to tell me that if you wanted Freddy to do something out of character, he wouldn't fight back? You know what I'm saying? So that doesn't make any sense.
I think there might be some truth in what you said. Because Ken Kurtzinger, or however he says it, he's 6'5".
Okay.
Kane Hodder's about 6'2", 6'3". Okay. So he's a little taller than him. But honestly,
2 inches,
I mean,
man.
you know, I read somewhere, and I know that there's a video of it out there. They asked Kane about Freddy vs. Jason, and he said that the only thing he could think of as to why the studio wouldn't want to have him play Jason had to do with Jason Takes Manhattan. There is a part in that where he gets hit by a car, and normally Kane Hodder would do his own stunts. Like, not a problem at all. He would do his own stunts without any issues, because he's a stuntman. But they didn't want to run the risk of him getting hurt for some reason on the set. So, Ken stood in for him.
Right.
And he thinks, or at least back in the day when everything happened, he thought maybe that was what had to do with it. Maybe the studio didn't think he was willing to do his own stunts anymore or anything. He's like, I don't understand that, because they've made me step out for that stunt.
Yeah.
I don't know what the truth is to that. I feel like that's one of those things that we're never really going to get a solid answer on.
Yeah, because probably whatever it was, especially from coming down from the studio, there may have been something a little bit more personal, or maybe something a little bit more insulting. As you said, he can't do his own stunts, so we're not going to hire him. So, I mean, and they don't want to admit to it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and let's be honest, maybe it was one of those things where the studio looked at the way that Ken has played Jason in the past, and they've looked at the way that Kane has played him in the past, because Kane Hodder is a very aggressive Jason. Mm-hmm. And if you watch, if you really pay attention to Jason in Freddy vs. Jason, when he kills, he's brutal. Yeah. He is. But he's not as aggressive in this movie. To me, when you watch Freddy vs. Jason, and Ronnie, you sort of did this on purpose, he wanted people to sympathize with Jason. He wanted everybody to be like, yeah, Freddy's being a dick. Freddy is truly the evil one here. Jason's just trying to be at rest. He can't die, but he wants to be at rest. He wants to be alone. And so it's almost like he's reluctant to do the things that he's doing in this movie. Like, if you think about it to a degree. Yeah. He kills because his quote-unquote mother, which is, Freddy in disguise, tells him to kill. And it's almost like best way I could put it, it's almost like he's like, fine, okay, Mom, I'll do this for you this time, I guess. But he never gets direction to stop. Like, Freddy doesn't give him that direction to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's just like Jason doesn't really start getting more brutal in this film until he thinks Freddy's taken his mother away.
Yeah.
And then shit just hits the fan, and he's going to kill anybody that gets in his way. And he's trying to figure out where this Freddy guy is, because Freddy guy is just in his head right at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the studio just thought that Kane would be a little too aggressive for the role, and it wouldn't come off the right way.
I mean, there is some scenes in there that I could definitely say that I would be concerned how Kane would have approached those. Not to say that he would have done a disservice, but like you said, there are moments where you see a side of Jason that maybe you hadn't quite seen before. And for anybody who has bitched about that, because I know that there are scenes that people have questioned, I find them quite fascinating. Because one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this movie is because for years after the movie came out, I heard nothing but hate. And I was a staunch defender of this movie for so long. And then finally I started finding other people who were like, no, this movie is fucking awesome. Right. And I was like, okay, so I'm not alone. Because I never understood it. I was like, what more did you want? You got a knockdown, drag-out fight with these two characters. And it wasn't one of these crossover movies like, the fuck is that one? There's The Ring versus the Grudge in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like they meet each other for like 3 seconds at the end of the movie. And you're like, what? Come on.
And it's like a little cat fight right at the end, and then it's over.
Kind of like what they did with that garbage Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys sci-fi movie. They did the same bullshit there.
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
No, we're not going to talk about that because it'll make me angry. Anyway, no, but this is one of those that I couldn't wrap my head around. It was like they fought. They beat the living shit out of one another. There was blood flying everywhere.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing Robert Englund in an interview, and you probably know the clip too, is when they were talking about Ronnie Yu. There was a movie he did, and I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head. It was like something about brides, and I could Google it, but the hell with it. But you could see, I guess, in that movie, there was a lot of, blood and gore and stuff like that. And there was apparently some behind the scenes stuff where they were shooting that film. And Robert Englund remembered Ronnie being like, more blood, we need more blood. Like for this already gushing scene of blood. And he's like, no, this is the guy. This is the guy we got to get to direct Freddy vs. Jason because he understands. More blood. You got to just... So, I mean, it's spraying everywhere. And again, what more do you want? I can't wrap my head around it. It just didn't make any sense. So
no, I mean, I agree with you. If you really take a look at that film as a whole, you get into the dream sequences. The fights are perfect, and they really show, Freddy is extremely powerful in the dream world, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I appreciated that. I gotta admit, I always chuckle in the dream world scene when Freddy is making Jason hit one of the boilers, and he's leaning his head forward, and he's like, because I'm like, oh, Freddy has force powers. That's awesome. That's where my mind goes. And then you have the scene where he's, throwing them all around, and it's making the pinball machine noises. And he finally falls, and Freddy just tilts his head. He's like, oh, tilt. Yeah. It's great. It takes you back to a version of Freddy, and somebody put it perfectly to me. They said, if you think about it, Freddy is his most iconic in Freddy vs. Jason. And I thought about that, and I'm like, that's really accurate. If you really stop and you think about it, we have that Freddy that is just, he's got the one-liners to a degree, but he's still scary. Yeah. They kind of came back to that. It's like everything from the original and Freddy's Dead sort of met right in place, and then you've got just a touch of New Nightmare Freddy in there. And it's just, it's a beautiful thing, and I wish they would re-release it with all of the behind-the-scenes stuff, because there's a lot of scenes, even the pinball machine, there's an outtake where Robert Englund is making all of the noises himself. and it's great. I'm sorry I interrupted you. No,
that's fine.
I wanted to put that out there real quick, because it's just the balance.
Yeah.
Freddy's all-powerful in the dream world. Jason gets a hold of him, though. He can throw him around and everything, and you still see how strong he is. We get into the real world, Freddy is quick as all get out. Everybody thought he was going to get his ass handed to him in the real world, but he was so fast. And I kind of feel like they paid homage to Nightmare on Elm Street 4 a little bit because Freddy basically knows karate. If you think about it, like he's kicking Jason's ass in the real world, but they also throw into account that Jason's bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
So if he gets a hold of Freddy, that's a dangerous thing. And Freddy's also smarter than Jason. He uses like when he uses the tanks and he's cutting the valves off of them and they're flying at Jason. And it goes to show that they figured out we have to balance this out because these characters each have their own strengths. And I think this film does an amazing job at that. I do have one other thing that I'll bring up, but I'll let you continue with what you were saying. I'm sorry, I interrupted you again. I just popped into my brain.
No, go ahead.
Oh, you want me to go ahead?
Oh, no, go ahead. I mean, because I'm holding on to mine.
I thought you said to go ahead. I was just going to say that I think even when Freddy's in the real world, he still he still keeps some of his supernatural ability. And the reason that I say that, there's a scene when they're in the real world where there's something happening. It's been a minute since I've seen it. So they're fighting and whatnot, and Freddy's like right there with Jason at one moment, and then something happens, and then you see Freddy up on top of like the construction stuff, and he's like, "Hey, asshole, up here!" Yeah. How did he get up there so fast?
It's a good point. I never thought about that.
You know what scene I'm talking where he hits the thing and the rebar comes down and stabs into Jason. Yeah. To this day, I'm like, Freddy must still have some, like, I don't want to say like teleportation ability or something, but he has to have some kind of like ability. Like, how did he get up there when he was just here?
That is a good point. I've never questioned that before.
Yeah, it's just one of those. But even if it's a plot hole in the movie, you don't care because seeing Freddy just pop up there going, "Up here," you're like, okay, that's still cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, the pacing of the fight and everything is just, it's everything you ever wanted, or at least I did, because we got a fight in the dream world and we got a fight in the real world. And I love that they gave Freddy this practically godlike abilities in the dream world because of course he would.
Yeah.
And he was trying every single thing he could think of. And that frustration, why won't you die? Like, he just can't understand it, but he's like, fuck, I'll continue down this path until I can figure it out. But he was using everything at his disposal, just throwing it at him. And I love that because it shows how creative he can be. He's like, what can I do? And this actually even comes back to what I was wanting to talk about with Jason and Kane Hodder is, and this is one of those complaints that I've heard, is when he utilizes the water. Okay, I understand that to some degree it seems like a plot hole, but it's really not if you think about how Freddy used it, because he went deep into Jason's psyche, deep to a part of his brain, to something that he has clearly suppressed, and dug that fear out. Because why wouldn't he have this deep-rooted fear of drowning somewhere in his memories? Like I said, he could have suppressed it to the point where he like, again, he's not, like you said, he's not smart. He just kind of lumbers about and kills. So that's something far removed from his brain pattern.
Yeah.
But to go in deep and find it, you're going to, and you kind of see him shaking and trembling and kind of turning back into a kid. Again, this is all in the dream world. So why couldn't it happen? Why couldn't Freddy find this deep-rooted fear and exploit it? And I know people are just like, well, it doesn't make any sense. But it does. Yeah. He drowned, you know?
The only thing that I, like, kind of threw me off when I first watched it, it's right before Freddy gets him back to that childlike state. They're fighting in the dream world. Jason throws Freddy. It causes that water to start falling. Mm-hmm. And he's coming at Freddy with the machete, and Freddy's like, come on. And Jason stops because the water's falling. Like, that's the only thing that I kind of, like, thought about for a moment. I'm like, Jason would have typically just attacked. But then I thought about it, It's conflicting to me because in the older movies, Jason's walked into the water reluctantly, though. Like, I thought about that. I'm like, Jason's fighting an enemy that he can't kill. Jason's been trying to kill him in the dream world, and he can't. And to me, and maybe I'm just looking into this deeper, I think the reason that Jason stopped when, in the old movies, you've seen him go completely into the water. Mm-hmm. I think the reason that Jason stopped was because this is a different kind of enemy. This isn't a victim.
Yeah.
He's been trying to kill Freddy, and he's not having any luck. And I think that seeing that water fall down there, I think he was almost intimidated, thinking, and maybe I'm giving Jason some more credit. Jason might not be the smartest, but he's not the dumbest, and he's not the smartest. Let's put it that way.
Right.
He's cut Freddy's arms off already at this point, and they've grown back. Freddy's thrown him around like a rag doll. He sees this water in this dream world. He's not sure what's going on, but he stops. He hesitates because I think he's afraid that something else could happen, and he's not sure of what it could be. And I think that is what opened the door to let Freddy get in, because as soon as Freddy saw that weakness, obviously, does the hands, the waterfalls, Jason's a kid again. But yeah, that's that. I get what you mean by like a plot hole there that would make people wonder. Sorry, again, I'm interrupting you. I'm sorry.
But I mean, no, to your point, I think that's exactly it. I think you're talking about this waterfall pretty much happening in the middle of a boiler room. So it comes out of nowhere. It just kind of catches him off guard. I don't really feel like it was the water specifically that put him into a fear state. It was just like, whoa, what the shit? You know, because where's it coming from? What happened?
Yeah.
And like you said, it caught him off guard. He's not sure what's happening. And then Freddy found like a moment to exploit and then got into his head. And I love that we actually got to see that moment we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Of Jason as a child being picked on. That right there is exactly how I've kind of envisioned what happened to him. Not that he just went swimming.
Yeah.
And was just like, oh, well, I'm drowning. No, some kids pushed him in and they were just like, oh, shit, what do we do? Well, let's go. And we just run off and no one says anything.
Yeah.
No one's paying attention. And that's how he dies. He's just forgotten.
I have to say, just on a side note, having to do with that specific scene in the dream world, that scene, and before it, I love how Freddy physically digs into Jason's mind with the glove. Never seen that before.
Yeah.
Which was something new and something unique. And this is just me being me. That dream sequence has one of my favorite jokes in all of Freddy's jokes. When she runs up to talk to the counselor to save him, and he's having sex with the girl, and she's like, "You mean you're not coming?" And then he turns, and it's Freddy. And he's like, "It's not my fault this bitch is dead on her feet." Come on, it's great.
It's classic Freddy. Like you said, they found a way to blend in all the different eras of Freddy that just work. And I got to admit, too, I think this might be my favorite design because everything about the makeup is just working on so many levels that it's just almost chef's kiss. I don't know if I could say the same about Jason's design. I mean, it's good, but I don't know. It's a good design. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
But I've seen other designs for Jason that I prefer more than I do this one, just a little bit more.
You know what I wish they would have done? And you might not agree with me on this one, but my favorite design of Jason is, let me see if I remember right. I'm horrible with movie titles. Is New Blood the one with the girl with the psychic powers?
Yes.
That is my favorite version of Jason as far as appearance goes. Mm-hmm. Because he's lumbering, but see, that's the thing. Ken is built different than Kane.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a different look. I don't know. He looked a little. Jason looked like he was going on a diet a little bit to me.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
So.
and not to say anything. Again, I don't hate the design at all. I mean, I think it's where you can see the one eye sometimes, and that's always been a factor of Jason that I don't want to see. I've always liked the dead eyes, where you don't really see his eyes, and they usually show, I think it was his left eye that was always kind of visible at some point. I mean, and there's some shots where the shadows cover it up, so it's not that bad. But again, I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I think I have more preferred designs for the character. Yeah. And I don't know why the eye thing kind of bugs me. It's like Michael Myers. I don't want to see his eyes either.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I get that.
I like the dead eyes, the black. You know, it just seems more terrifying. But going back to the dream sequence and my concerns with Kane is wondering if he would have fought back on the choice to show Jason scared. You know what I mean? Even though it's in a dream sequence, I often wonder if that would have been something they were concerned about and maybe have never talked about, is whether or not he would have said, well, Jason's not going to do that. Jason's not going to be afraid. But this is a different scenario. In the real world, yeah, he's not going to care. He's not going to be afraid. But in the dream world, different rules apply. So I kind of feel like you can twist certain aspects of the character because you're not dealing with his physical body. You're dealing with his mind.
Yeah.
So I don't know. that's speculation on my part. I have no proof that he would have been like, no, Jason's not going to do that. I don't know. Because it seems a little out of character, but when you put the context in that he's being manipulated through a mental capacity, I feel like it does make sense because he's getting into the root cause of the child.
Well, and I think you even see it in the beginning when Freddy is as his mom and, yelling at him, saying that he's like a dumb dog and he was only supposed to kill a few kids, and then all of a sudden she's gone and Freddy's there. It's like there's this initial fear almost, like Jason's confused. Like, what did you do to my mother?
Kind of see him cower when he's being yelled at, where he's kind of, timid like a child.
Yeah,
I like those little bits.
This movie does a great job at showing Freddy for what Freddy is. We say that some characters are not redeemable at all. Freddy is one of those characters. Freddy was evil enough and just demented enough to even get to Jason. And that's saying something.
Yeah.
Because Jason is just, I think that's why this movie sticks as well as it does, because these two huge franchises with these characters that we've never expected to see like this, and all of a sudden, boom, they're thrust upon each other. And I don't think it would work with any other characters, because if you think about it, Jason and Freddy are both undead. Freddy couldn't fight Michael Myers because he'd kill Michael Myers. Couldn't fight Leatherface, he'd kill Leatherface. I don't know how the Chucky thing would work, but you never know. And I will agree with you too. Probably one of my favorite versions of Freddy as far as the looks go. I even love the glove. They actually they curved the blades of the glove a little bit more, and they extended them a little. To this day, it's still my favorite glove, aside from New Nightmare's glove.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Ronnie Yu wanted to treat this. I remember reading it. He said he wanted to treat this almost like a samurai story. He said,
I can say that.
Jason's kind of like a samurai warrior. He's not necessarily the hero, but he's not the villain either.
Yeah.
And the kids pitching them against each other is just, the icing on the cake. And I have to give props. The story is, it's a simple story, but it flows really well.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to get into the meat and potatoes of the story, because I'm sure if you've been on the internet long enough and you've done the research, the amount of drafts this movie went through and some of the most ridiculous shit that people added into the story, which was unnecessary. And then you get the two writers whose names elude me at the moment. Damien Swift is one of them. I can't remember the other guy's name. But they took it back to basics. It's like they said, okay, you have two characters with such rich history. Franchises abound. You got 7 movies of one, 10 of another. You've got all this stuff to work with. How can you not just start there? And that's what they did. So, all right, so what about these characters? How do we put these two characters together? And in the most simple and effective way, Freddy just searches the bowels of hell and he finds a weapon to get kids to remember him, because fear is his strength.
Yep.
Simple and so perfect.
And I think they took a note from Wes Craven on that, because Wes Craven always used to say, keep it simple, don't over-explain it, and you will create something amazing. And they did.
And I honestly feel like a lot of those old scripts were just like, well, we've got to explain how these two things come together. And it was like, no.
We don't want that.
You keep it as simple as Freddy finds Jason, resurrects him, and then sends him on a path. He's like, go to Elm Street, kill the kids, and then I'll take the glory. And there was just so much, like you said, it seems like, well, explain more, but you don't need it. You don't need it. You've already got the path set. The moment the film starts, it's ready to go. And the rest of the story will play out as it needs to. And
exactly.
What I even love even more is how they pulled. I mean, for me personally, I think this is more of a nightmare movie than it is a Friday the 13th movie, because we're in Springwood for the most part.
Yeah.
And a lot of everything that's going on really does hinge on Freddy.
Yeah.
Because I love that they went back to Weston Hills. Yeah. I love that they utilized Hypnosil. And I love that the whole purpose of that whole thing, bringing all that shit back in. So this rewards you for being a fan, if you remember these plot threads.
Yep.
And they say they are trying to suppress the memory of Freddy.
Yeah.
To, like, if it's ever brought up, zip it, They're up to Weston Hills. No one ever talks about it again. You suppress the dreams. They'll never talk about it. It's insane when you think about it. But for the safety of an entire town, it makes sense. It's a very drastic and extreme measure. But for everything that they had gone through up to this point, desperate times call for desperate measures. And they're just like, if we hear that name one more time, you will be sent up. And they never, and that, like the kids up there, they even said the same thing. We don't even know why we're here. They just have inklings, but they're not 100% sure why they got locked up in the first place. But it all comes back to, we don't say his name. We just zip it. But they even found ways. I think there was that scene where the deputy was trying to explain things. Yeah. And I like that they just rolled in that Jason was part of this universe. Like it's all been connected all this time. We just didn't know it because he was just like, well, I think we've got a copycat on our hands. And it sounds like this guy from, this other state. But we just kind of gloss over it. And again, it doesn't need explaining.
And that helps the whole film. It makes it seem like it's all just been the norm.
Yeah.
And I think for some people that is like insane to think. Some people want it over-explained, but keeping it simple like that is way more effective.
Yeah. And it doesn't complicate matters, and it doesn't need complicating. I think that's where you want to over-explain some stuff. That's what I don't need. So when people complain about plot holes or whatever, I feel like they're wanting something explained, and that explanation is not going to be good enough, or it's not going to be sufficient for what they're looking for, and I don't know what you need. Because all the plot elements that they pull from old movies, it works. It works on such a fantastic level that I can't praise this movie enough for doing the impossible. And I would honestly say, and I'm going to remove the Marvel and DC movies from this argument because I don't think they count. We're not talking about movies that were those movies were designed to cross over.
Yeah.
That was the whole purpose of them from the jump. That was the plan. These were two franchises that never had any indication that they were ever going to cross over. It was always a fan dream.
Yeah.
And it came to reality. And I don't know if you could get a better movie out of this than what we got.
Yeah, I agree
because, like you said, we're seeing these titans come together. We're pulling from all this lore, and you don't over-explain it. You just know. And if you know, it just makes everything like you've been following the story through all these movies, and it finally culminates to this.
Yep.
You can't ask for anything more.
And it even makes you appreciate the original films even more.
Yeah.
And, to kind of piggyback on something you said earlier about, Freddy, this mainly being a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I think this works because Freddy is your villain. Jason is the anti-hero.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids are the placeholders that basically put everything together, I think.
Sure.
And it works. And I'm gonna give props to Robert Englund real quick. He was like 54 when they started these movies. He did his own stunts in this movie. Mm-hmm. The scene where Freddy jumps up out of the lake, like 60 foot in the air, that's Robert Englund. He was in cold ass water for like 12 hours doing this scene over and over. Water got up underneath the mask, and he felt like he got swollen and everything by the end of it all. And it took them forever to get off the makeup because they applied extra adhesive to make sure it would stay on. You got to give that guy props for that. I mean,
oh hell yeah,
he did that for the fans. He's always been good to his fans. Robert Englund has. Kane Hodder's been good to his fans. I know he's not in this. I've met Ken twice. Super nice guy. But when you think about it, Englund was older than all the other people on this set. Except for maybe Robert Shea, but Robert Shea's just the principal. Let's just say it.
Right.
But, I mean, he proved in this movie that he is Freddy, like, without a doubt. And gave us one hell of a performance in a movie that is grossly hated. I think over the years it's become more loved.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do, and I know this might sound weird, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that nobody ever thought we'd get the crossover. And from a Nightmare on Elm Street standpoint, we didn't realize that this was going to be Robert Englund's last feature-length film as Freddy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it has a special place, especially to me, because this is the probably last time anybody will ever see him play Freddy in a feature-length film. You can watch him play Freddy in The Goldbergs, but that's just a little funny comedy thing.
Yeah.
But, God,
But what a way to go out on, though.
I know, and the wink at the end. The only thing that could top this is if I saw an article tomorrow that said Robert Englund's coming back and they're doing Freddy versus Jason versus Ash.
What if?
That would be, because Robert Englund even said, he said if that movie could have happened, he said I would have signed on. He said because it would have been cool for Ash to kill Freddy Krueger once and for all.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole reason he would end up in that situation in the first place would be because he read something wrong in the Necronomicon.
Certainly.
That would have been really cool to see. There's a comic of it. You can look at the comic. But no, I think it ended on a high note. And it holds a special place in my heart. And I had just seen something posted somewhere. One of the Friday the 13th was going to be played at a theater somewhere. Like, I think it's like the last Friday the 13th film. And then Freddy versus Jason. They were going to put them up and play them in the theater. I would love for Freddy versus Jason to get another theatrical go around, because I would love to go to the theater now and see it, because I think I would appreciate it more now that 20 years has passed. So, but I mean, I don't have a whole lot more. I have one little like Easter egg that's kind of cool.
Well, I just did want to kind of tell everyone why we decided to bring this up now, because as we said, the 20 years were coming by, and what was funny to me is, as I said, I'd always heard negative responses, like very few times did I hear something positive. Now, I understand there are some elements of the movie that have not aged well. I can think of, in fact, it's the same scene, if you think about it, where I think a lot of people have issues with some less than appropriate language, some certain words or phrases, one uttered by Freddy and then one uttered by Kelly Rowland.
Oh, you could just,
You know what I'm saying.
How sweet, dark meat.
Yeah. So, and what she calls Freddy about his Christmas sweater and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, again, I understand that stuff does not age well, but again, think about this, 2003. This was at a time where this stuff was not deemed unacceptable. It was just like, okay, we'll just let that slide. That's funny. Ha, 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 ha. I don't watch it and go like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. It ruins the movie for me from now on.
When you're done, I have to tell you something.
Oh.
Go ahead.
But again, when the 20 years hit, I saw all these articles coming through. Oh man, why this is the greatest matchup in 20 years. 20 years later, this is the greatest thing ever happened. I'm sitting there going, where the fuck were you people when this movie came out?
It took you 20 fucking years to realize it? Come on.
Yeah. I was like, I've been championing this movie for so long, and I've heard so many people just say, I didn't care for it. I thought it was stupid. I didn't understand it. This is a plot hole. This is a plot hole. I'm like, God damn it. What more? Okay. And I let it go because I thought, well, maybe I'm just in the minority. And
they
then
brought
now 20
them
years
together,
later,
and it's a solid movie.
Yeah. It could have been so much worse. Go look at the other scripts. It could have been bogged down with so much bullshit that you're just like, what? This is not a Freddy and Jason movie. They gave you, in theory, at least the way I look at it, a sequel Nightmare on Elm Street movie that features Jason.
Yeah.
That is how I look at it. And does that bother me as a Jason fan? Absolutely not. Because, to be fair, Jason's kind of one note. He shows up in a place, he does his killing, they stop him, and that's it. There's nothing more to him than that. I love it. I do. But Freddy is the one with the rich back history, with details that we can play with. And they do that. They make him front and center stage villain with all his rich history. And then they just say, well, what if we just put Jason in the movie? Done.
And it works.
And it works. Because you can't beat that idea. It's his way to revive himself, to make people remember. That is, to me, that is so perfect in all the best ways. Because what are they going to automatically think? If they're not seeing the killer, they're just going to be like, fuck, Freddy's back. And they're not going to know, not going to be the wiser. They're just like, oh shit, it's happening again. We're going to panic. And then it's going to spread like a virus.
Just to say, I had been working on my little nightmare script before this movie came out, but I didn't have a way of, incorporating Freddy in it the way that I wanted to. Mm-hmm. It was more of just a guy comes into town, knows that it's happening, and I didn't like the way it sounded. I saw Freddy versus Jason. I said, what if somebody brought Freddy back? Mm-hmm. Kind of like Freddy brought himself back.
Yeah.
Gave me inspiration. So, I don't know. I have to tell you, though, just a real quick tidbit. There's a comedian who has a Freddy versus Jason joke. And he brings up that scene. He's like, there's a scene where everybody thinks that Freddy's a racist. Because he says, how sweet dark meat. And he's like, so, you know, you're there, you're sitting in the audience, and you're going, well, I guess I'll cheer for that psycho killer, because that one's racist. But we're still going to cheer for one of these psychos that's going to murder all these teenagers. But that one's racist, so he's a little worse.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
Right.
But, I mean, I don't have anything else as far as one little tidbit. Kane Hodder does make an appearance in Freddy vs. Jason in Weston Mills when they're in the rec room. Somebody's watching Friday the 13th, and it's one of the Friday the 13th where Kane Hodder plays Jason.
I've never noticed that.
Yeah, if you watch it, go back and see that.
Okay.
But he does have a little cameo in it, even though he didn't get to be in it. So,
Interesting.
other than that, I don't have anything else to say other than I freaking love this movie.
Yeah.
Go watch it if you haven't watched it. It's been 20 years, people.
And if you're one of these people who didn't like it, I would love to hear why. You know, from anybody who's listening right now, if you absolutely, outside of the little racist comment and then the bigoted comment about his Christmas sweater, those two things removed, what about this movie just didn't do it for you? Because as diehard Freddy and Jason fans, I couldn't have asked for anything more. And I'm intrigued to hear it because, again, I thought the movie was hated by a swath of people, and I'm honestly wondering if a lot of these articles were not written by people who are just like, well, we've got to celebrate, so maybe we ought to talk about how good this movie may be. And they're just blowing smoke, and they don't really believe it. We love it. I think that's apparent. Yeah. So, anyway, Ramblers, let us know how you feel on Twitter about Freddy vs. Jason 20 years later. You can do that at Horror Ramblings. We are looking to expand to other horror avenues. I keep calling it Twitter. It's fucking X. Why in the hell it's X, I don't know. I guess I need to change that. Anyway, on X at Horror Ramblings, because Jesus Christ, Twitter was such a bad name, and X is so much better. But yeah, the
movie's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. But, you know, there are other social media avenues we're exploring. I think Threads is one. There's Hive and Spoutable and Blue Sky. I don't know if we have.
I will send smoke signals if I need to.
Yeah, so we're going to try to expand to these new avenues because X is a dumpster fire right now. Anyway, if you've got a lot more to say and you can't find us on that X platform, or you just don't want to use it because you jumped off, like I've been thinking about doing, you can send us an email at horrorramblings@gmail.com. That's a very easy way to get your message read out here on the show with your name if you want. If you want to discuss horror with like-minded individuals, join our Facebook group or join us in our Ramblers room on Discord. You can even find us on Instagram to see an assortment of horror images. And if you're feeling generous and want to support the show financially, head on over to patreon.com/Pencil and Paper Productions. You can help the show grow by leaving a 5-star review on your favorite podcasting app and tell your friends to find us on their favorite platform and do that 5 stars over there as well. And if you happen to be using Spotify, see if we've put up any questions or polls for the week and let us know what you think. Finally, if you prefer a central hub, keep up with any and all things at pencilpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Links are in the show notes for your convenience.
And remember, guys, today's show was brought to you by Sawyer Brand Bacon, which can be found at Springwood Markets, which is located at 429 Elm Street, or you can find it at Camp Crystal Lake in the cafeteria. Have a good one, guys.
This has been the Horror Ramblings podcast. Join us next time for even more.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.